Alrighty, boys and girls, ladies, gentlemen, friends, neighbors, loved ones. We got another one here. Another ARIENS 28 Deluxe super high output. It's the HSO, the 306cc engine. I picked this one up for mine. Jake's is still. Jake's got the old one, or not the old one, but last year's. So I got to go through this. It needs a service. I don't think it's two seasons old. I do not think it was ever serviced. Cables are a little bit slack. This one's real slack. This is a slack cable. So that needs to be adjusted. It needs to be lubed. I don't think it was ever lubed. We're going to go through the whole thing. Oil change. We're going through the whole thing. We're not going to miss anything on this one. None of the controls have been lubricated. So yeah, we're going to go through it step by step and see exactly what it needs. So here's another one. We'll get right back to it. I got some running around to do first, but here's the intro and away we go. Okay, first thing we're going to do is remove the drain plug for the oil. As you can see, I'm using my Saskatchewan socket set here. This is the metric one. These socket sets here come in metric and standard. So what is this one? Oh no, this is 12 inch. It's standard. Yeah, sorry, I stand corrected. It's not metric. I like to change the oil when the oil is warm. I warmed up the engine so we can get the oil out a little bit easier. Here we go. Got my bucket down here to collect the oil in. So let's see if we can get this to do it. Why am I focusing on focus? There we go. Sorry guys. And here it goes. Oh yeah, look at how dirty that is. Oh my. There you go. That's never been changed. That's probably factory oil right there. So that's pretty dark. So there you go. She's needing of an oil change. I'm going to drain the oil and then I'll get back to you. Geez, one might think that this thing was over full. I'll have to measure that. I didn't bother checking the gauge before or the dipstick before I started. I mean, I checked it and there was oil in it, but I didn't get a good reading on it. She's almost done now. Yeah, we're gonna go through this thing. You can see I got her tipped back. It's just resting on my leg. That's just to get all the oil out, and we're down to just a couple drops a second now, so I think that's pretty good. Yeah, we'll go through her. I'm sure we're gonna find some fun stuff in here, so stay tuned. This will be a good one. This will be a good video. Yeah, so you guys know that I don't prefer getting shot. I don't prefer to use any Teflon tape on my stuff. I always prefer to use pipe dope to seal up the threads. There you go. The product I am using, Loctite 567 thread sealant, Teflon. It is a PST, which is a pipe sealant with PTFE. So that's Teflon. So it's in a liquid form, a paste form, and that's what I use. So you can get it in little small tubes, probably at your local auto parts store, or whatever. You can get it online, whatever you prefer. But that's what we use. So I'm going to put the drain plug back on and drain cap, and then we'll go from there. Tight is tight. There we go. We're just going to do a light snug on this. You don't got to go crazy. It's pipe thread. And don't over tighten it because you'll never... You're just creating yourself problems to get it out the next time. It is taper thread. There. I mean, you don't got to go crazy. Don't create grief where you don't need it. I'll wipe off the excess schmoo from the pipe dope so it keeps the machine looking good. There you go, oil drained. All right. I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but I'll do my best. I'm just videotaping my screen because I don't know how to do a voiceover on a picture. Maybe I'll try and learn that. We'll see. Let me open this up here. So the motor we're working on is on that machine is a 306cc and it takes 0.946 liter, 32 ounces, which I believe is an American quart. And that's what we'll be putting in there. We are going to use 5W30 synthetic AMS small engine formula. This is a cold weather use only motor, and I mean colder than what's on that chart. And we will be following the dipstick level on the motor. So I'm going to go back to the shop and we'll get going on that. And we'll see you there soon. Stand by. So I changed my mind a little bit. I'm going to put the oil in last. That's the product we'll be using. I know you guys I know you guys know that I'm a fan of the AMSOIL products, but that's what will be going in the motor. I think what we're going to do is save that towards the end. So give me a second now. I'll flip this thing up into service position and we'll get going. While we're working on this, we'll take out the key and pull the spark plug boot before we get going into anything. That just keeps it extra safe. Alright, to get that off. There we go. Terrible. There you go. Boots off, keys out. She's 100% safe. Well, I can tell you right now, there's no way this thing was ever serviced. This might be fun, or it might not be. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to pull the wheels off and the bottom cover. You guys will be the first to see if these wheels will come off or not. Let me get you in there and I'll show you the wheel removal procedure. You should be able to see okay. Let's see. So it's just a matter of pulling that clip up and popping it off. Oh, look at that. She's not seized. I'm surprised. But you guys will be the first to see that shaft and what it looks like. All right. This is real pain in the butt doing this with a tripod because you got to set up every shot. It's just going to take forever. So we can see the wheel is coming off. I'm going to give a little shot of lubricant and we'll pull it right off, but it is on its way off. Okay, I wanted you guys to see what it takes to get this wheel off. If you don't lube them or Andy sees them, so this is not coming off yet. Finally, it was about 10 tries to get that off. And you can see the amount of rust. The amount of rust here. Let me get you out of the tripod for a closer look. Look at that, boys and girls. That's just loaded with rust. And I'm going to tell you something right now. There's the date of manufacturer on this. Okay, it's right there. No, I haven't got my glasses on. I left my glasses at home again. But this is not by any stretch an old machine. So that's what's going to happen if you don't service it. So that's one wheel. I'll get the other one off and we'll go from there. Let's get this bottom cover off. The other wheel came off really easy, so we only had one that was slightly stuck on. The other one came off pretty good. Didn't require any extra effort. Okay. I'm putting all my bolts in a magnetic tray so we don't lose them. I am using the DeWalt Extreme ratchet DCF, I think 500. God, I wish I wore my glasses. 503. And yeah, it isn't. The batteries I bought were off of Amazon, I'm not gonna lie, and they're no good. One thing, they're pain in the butt. They don't seem to charge well in the cold. So that's unfortunate. Now, lo and behold, what's going on in here? Nothing too surprising. Actually, that's a lie. The drive wheels wore out of it, or wore pretty low. Yeah. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm gonna move the yeah. So there's that. I was thinking something here. This machine was bought from an estate, and it does not appear that the owner of the unit that he knew what he was doing, because I mean, it doesn't look like there's a lot of hours on it, but my God, some of the wear. Yeah, let me get you in there for a closer look, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. It's never been serviced, I can tell you that right now. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let me see if I'm in the right resolution. All right, let's have a boo here. So we don't see any signs. Let me get some light on the subject here. We don't see any signs of lubricant in that bushing for the axle. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. You can see what's that blackness that's been coming out of there. That's corrosion. So we know that right away. So we got to get something in there. It's going to be the same on this side. I'm almost tempted to pull that axle bushing out and see if it's okay. It's just a matter of moving those 3 bolts. I think I might do that. And just to have a quick look at it. Stand by. I'll get it out and then I'll show you guys. Okay, spacer, and there's the bushing there. I'll clean this up and we'll have a look at it. Look at the corrosion. That ain't chill. I think these are sintered metal. I wanted to try drilling one of these and putting a grease fitting in it. I don't know if I'll do it now. No, I don't think so. I just got to get this thing run in case we get snow. But oh yeah, pissed me off. We got that shaft has got wear in it as well as the other one did. Let's see if I can get a view of that. Where are you guys at? Same as the other one. Shafts wore out. So that's a problem with these machines. The shafts are spinning in the bearing. Opposite the drive end. Or, yeah, opposite the chain end here. But this one is not nearly as bad as that other one was. I might be able to put some bore lock on that. I'm going to put some bore lock on that and see if I can get it to hold. Alright, looking at this. This is the wheel that came out of it. Yeah. And this is the one that... No, this is the one that came out of it, I think. Wait a minute, now I'm losing my mind. That one's 17, so that was out of the other one. Yeah. It seems to be better than this one. This is the one that came out of it. Not much better, but a little bit. Like, it's not completely wore down. And it's hard to say because they're not made exactly the same. Well, I guess they are. I'm looking at the rubber on the edge right here. How much rubber's left? If we can do a comparison. This one does have a little bit of delamination going on. And that's the older one. It appears to be delamination. Yeah, the one that's in there is better. This one's still not bad. That came out of the other machine. It took a lot of work to get the shaft out. Of course, when I popped it with a screwdriver on the end, it went flying. So I'm going to check the bearing that came out of there. One of the older used ones feels a little bit better. It's hard to say. That one feels okay. Yeah, this is the one that came out. It's got a slight crunchiness to it. I'm going to use that bearing when I put it back together. So, because both of those bearings were not screwed, I think the only problem is this end over here is the one that seems to ride loose. And it seems to be aggravated more. So these two bearings weren't all that bad. This one's actually a lot worse. This one's good in here. That one feels okay. So let's get to work on, we'll lube up this shaft, put that bearing back in. I'm going to use the EP #1 grease on the axles just because it's less likely to freeze. I'll put that drive shaft back together again. This has never been lubricated. You can see by the schmegma leaking out of it. We'll get that cleaned up. We'll get that idler working or lubed up. We'll get everything need to be lubed and get back on course with this thing. And obviously next year it will not be ran in this condition. So we'll do a little bit better of a job at taking care of it. So let me get back to this and then we'll carry on. All right, you can see the grease leaking out there, right there. So we just did some grease on there. Put the bushing back on. I'm running low on battery here on this ratchet. Okay, that's back together. I'll pull out this side, do the same thing. This one would be really difficult to do with the, so I'm going to have to just try to go in from the front from in there because this is a lot of work to get this in there. I don't know. Got to pull out the differential. I'm not into that, so I'm just going to try and do it from the front. Grease on my phone. Anyway, you remember this, right? And we can pull this E-clip off. Trying to do it one-handed here. Okay, that's off. We'll put that in the part straight. And then we'll pull this one out. There. Now we can expose that. Put lots of grease on that shaft. And get lots of number 1 in there. Look at that, eh? Well, you know what? We'll go one even better. I'll pull it right out. And lo and behold, that needs grease too. So we're killing it now. We're going to grease up everything so that this thing runs as good as it should, good as it possibly can. And I know you guys are thinking, oh, he's putting too much grease in there, but that's okay. You know what? You won't hurt my feelings. There's no such thing, eh? Not on the shaft. Not on the, you know, this is plain. There's no bearing in here. Nothing's running high speed. So we'll put lots on there. We'll get that back on. And then we'll spin that a lot to distribute the lube evenly. And I tell you why I don't want to put anti-seize on there. It's because it's moving. And because it's moving. Okay, so I got to get this back lined up again. Let me put this down. So I got to get this shaft all the way on. It's not all the way on yet. Stand by. What do you think? Did we rescue this one just in time? You can see the little bit of rust going on there between that. This is the area here where that small sprocket goes. You can see it sitting in there in the chain that drives the jack shaft, that drives the universal, which drives both the axles. Yeah, so this is 2 years old, guys. Ladies, gentlemen, friends, neighbors, this is 2-year-old machine, and it is already starting to succumb to a lack of maintenance. So this is an eye-opener for you guys. We got to maintain these things. You know, once a year, after the end of every season, I recommend that you pull it apart and you go through everything and make sure everything's good. So that's my recommendation right there. Okay, background noises. The furnace is on. The heat. I put some Loctite blue in there. We're gonna try that. A lot of you guys might not have access to Borlock, but you definitely have Loctite blue. That will cure, and that should hold the bearing to the shaft for now. We're going to get one more season out of this, and you know, hope for the best. So I'm going to put this back together, and we'll go from there. I did put copious amounts of anti-seize on this portion of the shaft because well, it needs it for that sprocket not to seize to it in those splines. Okay, this is greasing the pinion and crown gear on this differential unit. It is in your manual to use grease on here, so that's what we're doing. We're going to go all the way around that thing and make sure it gets a good amount of grease. I would like to say apply the grease liberally, but that's not a word that we use anymore. That's a bad word. So what we're going to call it is copious amounts. All right. And we'll put that on there. And again, I'm using EP number 1 because this mostly is cold weather operation. So I'm really not that concerned about the grease being too soft, because it's going to thicken with the temperature, right? Okay, and I think that's all the way around. Right there. Now we're going to do the hex shaft without getting anything on the wheel, because the hex shaft needs to be done, because the gear selector has to be able to, that friction wheel has to be able to slide freely. So I don't want to put too much on. And that should be plenty, that'll flow. Get that hanger off of there. Get any hangers off. Try to clean it up a bit. Sorry, I'm out of the shot. You know what? I'll tell you something right now. I'm going to be honest with you. Setting up with a tripod on doing these blowers is a complete pain. Because you got to move in and out of this gearbox so much. There. So that's done. That's greased. Pinion in the bull or burr gear, the spur gear in the crown, ring and pinion, whatever you want to call it. There's all kinds of things you can call it. That's done. I'm going to put the keepers back in to stop this shaft from going too far. And then I got to lube the chain. I'll show you that. And lube this shaft because that's an idler. There's a bushing in here. You can see the shaft does not turn all the way. It's keyed. So we got to make sure that's lubed. So we got to put grease in this guy right there. So I put a paper towel, shop cloth, whatever, down there on top of the on the friction plate. So when I use the chain lube, I'm using Motormaster chain lube. It's what I get at my local Canadian Tire. And I'm going to lube this chain. It's a foamy kind of, a little bit of a disaster here. There we go. Look at that. Just like magic, she are lubed. Okay, that's all lubed up. Like I said, I put the cloth down on here to protect the wheel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the wheel surface and this plate surface with brake clean. I highly recommend you do your service on your machine to use the brake clean to clean up afterwards, because you're going to get oil residue on here and that's going to lead to slipping, and you don't want that. So I got those pins back in. The bearings are back on. The outer bearing here, the bushing's all done. Both sides are greased, very copious amounts of grease. That's been greased. The grease was leaking out through here and here. You can see it coming out. That's just anything near that friction wheel, you don't want it to fling grease off. So all that's done. All I got left to do here is I'm going to hit it with some Red and Ready or some kind of spray grease. Get all the points. I have lubricated them with MP, but I don't know. Maybe a little something a little more, little bit better. So I'll get to that. I'll do all the stuff under here on the controls. All that'll be sprayed. I'll show you that. I'm not going to go through and show you how to spray it. All you guys can manage that, and then we'll get into adjusting the cables. All right, boys and girls. The next thing we're going to do is adjust this cable, because that's just flopping all over the place. Now, before I adjust the cable, I don't know if you guys remember from my other video a couple years back, I take these apart and I put anti-seize on them. And I'll tell you why, because they're exposed and they're probably zinc chromate sprayed, and let that dangle. That stuff ain't the best at stopping corrosion. So what I'm doing here is applying a copious amount of anti-seize, and then no matter when I need to adjust that, I'll be able to. 10 years from now, who knows? And that screws back in, and it's and all you do is keep wiggling that cable. I can take these off right now. Don't need them. You can just wiggle that cable. You can turn either piece. See how the slack's starting to come out of there? Oh, come on, baby. This gets stubborn a little bit. that. A little bit more. Maybe too much. Okay, there, I like that. So I put the lock nut back into position. I'll tighten that up. It's repeat for the other side. And that's it for the cable adjustment. Pretty easy, pretty standard stuff. There's flats on here. You could probably try an adjustable wrench, but I use vice grips. Those needle nose ones, because I know that's what works. So I'll do the other one. All this has been, all the top controls have been lubricated up here with Red and Ready. So I don't know if you can see the pink hue. All that's done. That won't corrode now. So if your blower happens to be outside and you get one of those rain deals in the wintertime, everything's protected. It should be okay. Lubricate all the points. Don't forget any. It's really important. You got to keep these things lubed. They're vibrating and shaking all the time, and stuff is going to get corroded real fast if you don't. So I'm going to continue on, and then when we get her back, I'll put the cover on. We'll probably flip her back in the auger position, and then we'll tackle the auger. All right, now we're on to the front end. We're going to do the, I guess they call it the rakes. I don't know. That drag in the snow. We're going to do the, sorry, I bumped the tripod. Let's get you better here. We're going to be lubricating the output shafts and the rakes. We're going to lubricate through these grease fittings. We'll do a full lubrication. I'm going to pull out the shear pins, the shear bolts. I'm going to take them out, 1/2 inch wrench, and then we'll lube that all up. You can see there's copious amounts of spray grease here. I'm assuming that was from the dealer. That seems to be the only place that there was grease. I'll let you in on a little secret. The shaft that runs through this gearbox is only this long. It does not run completely through. This end of the rake runs in that tube on a little bushing. On the Pro models, it runs all the way through. The Pro models, you won't see this bracket. That's just to do the shaft. That's what the way ARIENS decided to go, and that's what they did. So don't be surprised if you ever have to take this apart or change these bushings over here. The shaft does not run all the way through. It's only here, and the rest is hollow. So I'm going to pull these shear pins out, and then we'll get to greasing. These are center lock nuts on these, so they're tight to get out all the way out. And some of the replacement ones that you'll find around, if you don't buy the exact ARIENS ones, will be nylon. Could be anything really. And it doesn't make them any less quality than the others. It's different. Okay, so the nuts off. Okay, now let's have a look at this one. It's still good and straight, so it hasn't been impacted. So we can reuse this one, not a problem. So I'm gonna take this stuff out of the way because it's gonna be in the way. And then I'll get the grease gun. I'll show you guys. Got the handy dandy grease gun. And we're gonna pump grease into this fitting. Of course, everything's hard to do when you have junk in your hands. Okay, there, that's better. So, and I'm having problems with this grease gun. Come on, baby. Okay, stand by. I'll get this fixed. Okay, you can see I got lots of grease in here. I grease that, and it's, look at it, it's pushing back out the hole. So you can just drive that in there. You ain't gonna hurt nothing. And then I'm gonna see if I can get this. Yeah, I can get this spread apart. I'm gonna fire this on this corner here with some spray grease. I got my red and ready. Because there's no way to get grease in there other than using spray grease. So I highly recommend you buy yourself some spray grease. You're going to need a few products. You're going to need penetrating oil. You're going to need lubricating oil. You're going to need anti-seize. You're going to need a grease gun grease. You're going to need, you can use EP2 if you need. I prefer EP1. And all the drive stuff up here at the front, it doesn't matter because you got to have grease in there. So get yourself some grease. Anti-seize is an absolute must. You're going to need a set of 3/8 socket set. Doesn't matter quality. You can use lower quality stuff if you want. Whatever you can afford. Needle nose pliers, some vice grips maybe. Just basic hand tools. And you should be able to, most guys should be able to handle, or most people should be able to handle a service of this nature. You just need a few products to make this as best as it can be. And I'll tell you right now, the spray grease, a spray can grease is a must because you don't get grease fittings like you used to in the old days. So there's no way to grease these ends. So you got to spray it in there. You're going to need your oil, drain pan, some thread sealant. Yeah, you can use Teflon tape or get yourself a little tube of Teflon paste as opposed to tape. WD-40 of some kind, penetrating. That could be MP blast or coil or whatever. Depending on the age of your machine, you might have a little bit of trouble getting the rims off. Now, some guys recommend 5 times one way, 5 times the other. Give me a break. As long as the grease is flowing out everywhere, you've done a good job. You don't need to sit here and count nonsensical stuff like that. I've been a mechanic for 40 years, and I'll tell you now, over 40 years. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, you do what you do, I do what I do. Get the spray grease in there. What I'm using is LPS, Red and Ready, multi-purpose grease. And I've had this forever. And I'm running out of cans, so I'm going to eventually have to buy some more. So what I'm doing is just pounding it in there. That's all you can do. Spin it around a little bit, get her in there. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Anti-seize your shear bolts. Put them back in just so you can't spin them with your fingers anymore. That's as tight as they need to be. Repeat on the other side. Pound it full of grease. You can't put too much grease up front here, folks. And then that'll be done. So I'm going to do the other side. You guys don't need to watch that. And then we'll prepare to put the oil in it. Shop towels. Cloths, rags, you're going to need tons of them. This is a greasy, messy job. But in order to do it right, it's got to be greasy. It's got to be messy. Because that's the way it is. And I lost my 1/2-inch wrench. Oh, Lordy. I put it down. I don't know where I put it. Oh, right here. No. Yeah, right here. It's off camera. So, like I told you before, on this we're on. Quarter turn at a time. So shop towels for sure. Greasy, dirty mess. Absolute must. Extra shear bolts. Replace them if they're even slightly bent because they're on the way to going. And you know what? You're going to end up having to replace them sooner than later. Okay, manual says just to tighten those up so you can You just can't turn them. So that's what I did. Whew, there you go. Okay, we got a half sheared one. So that's going to create a little bit of trouble. That has to be pounded out. Taper punches, get a set of those. There it is. Whoa! And you can see that it is bent. Shaped like an S. So that one's garbage. So that's what you look... Sorry. This tripod stuff's killing me. There, shaped like an S. Can you see it? She's bent. She got more curves than Wonder Woman. There you go. And I'll probably put a new one in. I'm going to grease this, do the same thing. Okay, recap time on the impeller and the auger end of things. Brake, whatever you want to call them. Spray grease on the ends. Pump this center section. See how much grease is in there? That's not too much. So just let that be your guide. Pound it with grease. You ain't going to hurt nothing. Same as that side, red and ready. You can see it dribbling down there in the bottom. If you don't have any signs of drippage, the gearbox should be fine. I recommend every second season at least to have a check. I'll check this off camera. It's not hard to do. I kind of like the other machines better because you can pop that cover off on the Pros and have a look down inside. But I don't anticipate there being any trouble. This is a relatively low hour machine. There's different arguments on what to use out there for that. So corn head grease, 00 grease, 80W90, there's all kinds of things. In cold temperature, 80W90 I think is going to be fine, to tell you the truth, if you run into a situation where you got to fill that up. There's no drain on it. I don't know what the idea of that is. That has some sort of a casting, but there is no actual drain, so you can't change the oil in it per se. Yeah, it's a bit weird. ARIENS didn't give a provision for that. So that's it. All that bottom end stuff is done. Recap again, just tighten these bolts here and here just enough so they don't spin anymore. There's a torque spec in the manual. You can do that too. You can do either or. I don't think it's going to affect how they're going to shear off. No grade 5, no grade 8 bolts in there. If you got to run hardware store bolts, buy your grade 2 picnic table hardware. That's the way to go. No grade 5, no grade 8.